Sporting Kansas City are only 24 days away from the kickoff of the MLS season against San Jose Earthquakes. And yet, if you look at it, Sporting Kansas City has only 18 players contracted to the team as we go into or are in the third week of preseason. Now, if you're a Sporting Kansas City fan, there's plenty of worry going around. There's not a lot of information coming out from the club. And if you follow Sporting Kansas City, then you are getting more news about ex-team players who are signing for other teams, such as Eric Tommy going to LA Galaxy, than you are about the players that the club is looking at. So there is a lot to be worried about if you're a supporter. Again, patience has been the thing that a lot of people from the club have said that you need to have for the 2026 season, as this is going to be a rebuild, but also a bit of a slow rebuild. Now, what are the reasons for the slow rebuild? Well, one of them is the club waited till after Christmas to appoint Rafael Wicki as coach. And as we all know, Wicki is still waiting for his P1 visa to be approved before he can actually take charge. So the team is right now in week 3 of preseason in the hands of the backroom staff and the assistant coaches as they go through the paces. So a lot of things going on with Sporting Kansas City behind the scenes is what I assume, but not a lot is coming out. Now, the things that we have heard have come out pretty much from a different party, a third party, such as Rogers Mateo selecting or choosing to go to Hearts rather than to join Sporting Kansas City, as well as Cesar Inga, which was widely reported by different news outlets that he would be joining Sporting Kansas City for just over $1 million in a transfer from Peru's Universitario. That looks like that is actually, well, that is not going to happen at all. He has decided to not join the club, and it looks more likely he's going to go to Watford in the English Championship instead. So Sporting missing out on what were, looks like, 2 of their main transfer targets in this transfer market, or this transfer window. Now, the good thing is for Sporting Kansas City, the transfer market will go, or the transfer window, I should say, will stay open until March, giving the club chance to continue to build the squad, which they desperately need, because there's only 18 contracted players to the team right now, and you can't say that enough, because it's a bit silly that we are this far into preseason, 3 weeks now, with the club working out in Florida as they get ready to go now to California at the end of this week to participate in the Coachella Invitational football tournament or soccer tournament. So Sporting Kansas City have also been linked with a transfer, a bit of a wild link. They've been rumored to be interested, or rumored to be speaking to, or some kind of interest in Barcelona's Robert Lewandowski. This is a move that will not happen, wouldn't happen, and the simple reason is the links with Lewandowski came just days after the news of Sporting Kansas City's takeover from Peter Malik. And obviously, if you've been around football long enough and you know about the inner workings of transfers, this was obviously an agent or a journalist who is in some way connected to the Lewandowski camp, who saw the headlines and then decided they were going to make these links made public just to try to instigate a transfer or other teams to get involved. Because as we know, in football transfers, teams panic when they think that they can't get a player that they're interested in, so they will pull a trigger maybe a bit prematurely and sign a player. So that is really all that those links with Lewandowski is about, is trying to instigate a move somewhere else that's not going to be Sporting Kansas City. But the fact is, Sporting Kansas City are needing players, and I've said previously in videos, in some of my writing on Drew FC, which you can follow at drew.farmer, which you can follow at drew.farmer.substack.com, and where I write now for this season quite a bit about Sporting Kansas City. The team is probably going to likely be starting the season with some of these trialists, Ethan Bartlow, Jaden Reed, and Wyatt Meyer, probably getting a full contract. These are all players, or all 3 players, have MLS experience, especially Bartlow. Yes, they aren't with MLS teams. They were let go at the end of last season, but I can see These three players being signed because Kansas City, to be completely honest, can't find somebody else. They can't get another player in in time to sign. And these are all three defenders, which Kansas City is desperate for defenders, especially across the back line, but especially in central defense. Bartlow can do that. He's got, like I say, the most experience of the three in Major League Soccer with Houston Dynamo previously. And Kansas City also has players from the academy as well as players from Sporting 2 in preseason. I don't really have a lot of confidence in Kansas City necessarily being able to find a lot of gems with that Sporting 2 or the academy. I think Kansas City over in their recent history have had a bit of a mixed bag. Yes, they've had some good players like Busio, as well as Eric Palmer Brown, who have gone to Europe. But there are a few players who have also faded out, getting a professional contract and then not still being in professional football. So I think that, take that with a grain of salt, because I know it's exciting when academy players come through, but if they're not good enough, they're not good enough. Now, with the season, the preseason going right now, rolling, there was a bit of a fluff piece in a local Kansas City newspaper or online that talked a lot about Kansas City preparing for this season, and that the team is looking at getting younger, which obviously they are. They're looking to lower that average squad age going into this season, into 2026. And one of the areas that they looked at was that currently there's only one player over 30 in the squad or contracted to the team, and that is Stephen Cleveland, a goalkeeper who they signed this offseason. And compared to 2 seasons ago, Sporting had 8 players over the age of 30. Now that's great. That's wonderful that the team is getting a bit younger, but you still need those veterans to lead the team forward, to have that to be in the locker room, to be those wise old heads. And really, one of the reasons why we are seeing this team so much younger at the moment is because a lot of those older players were released at the end of last season. Eric Tommy, who I mentioned earlier, he was released at the end of last season. He was over the age of 30. And several of those players who were older were also maybe making more money than the players who are still with the team, who are a bit younger. So those players were released, they were older, and now that opens up some salary space. So, that connection to the team getting younger, yes, okay, they are, but the higher earners who were older, who were over 30, were released. So, it's a little bit of a weird thing there. And can remember, there's only 18 players under contract to Sporting at the moment. In this piece also, it talked about how Raphael Wiki is thinking about his tactics, looking at his tactics, and Sporting are looking at being possession-based going forward. Now, for me, this is a top-down approach, something that the club has identified that it wants to do. From the top, David Lee, who is likely to be the one who has implemented that, and now Wiki is the one putting that into place with the team. Well, he will be once he is approved, and he's got his backroom staff now working on that with the team on the ground. Now, fantastic, possession-based, that's great, control the games. If you look at Wiki's previous history, especially in Switzerland, it was more of an attacking approach, playing 4-3-3. And this article went on to explain also that Wiki doesn't really have a formation that he wants to use just yet, which isn't really worrying. He did mention in the article a 4-2-3-1, which I believe Kansas City did play quite a bit last season. But the reason why I'm looking into this as Wiki not knowing what formation he wants to use is he has no idea what players are going to be in that starting 11 come opening day. He has a few, Dejan, Manu, Salawi. He's got these players he knows will be there, who will be nailed on as starters on opening day, but he doesn't necessarily know who those other pieces are going to be. The midfield, the central midfield is a bit of a mess right now. Who's going to be in that central midfield? And then who is going to be in those center back positions? So to me, Wiki just doesn't know who his best players are, so what formation will best suit them so they can play that possession-based system. Now, I would assume playing possession based. They're going to be 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3. So we'll just have to see really how that goes as we go into the season. We get a bit closer. Perhaps the Coachella Invitational will tell us a little bit more. But keep in mind, the team has played two preseason matches already against Florida International, which they won 1-0, and then Chicago Fire, which they lost 1-0. But other than maybe a 30-second or 60-second clip on social media, Sporting hasn't really let fans in to knowing anything about what's been going on. Now, every day there's been some pictures on Instagram or some videos, or the things that I hate, the ridiculous videos where the content creator for the club is asking them silly questions about their roommates or, American college football, which those things to me are a bit ridiculous because I want to know what's going on with the team. I want to know more about football. Tell me about those players. Let's learn, okay? You want to grow a fan base. There's been fans who have drifted away from the club over the last few years because they're not winning. Bring them back in. Tell them about football. How can I get excited about this team? How can I get excited about this team if you're not trying to get me excited about this team? You're expecting me and other people to show up on match day, to watch on Apple TV, to follow this team, to buy the shirt, to buy all of the different merchandise. But you're not giving me a reason to follow them. You're just assuming because I've been a fan that I'm going to follow. Now, I'm going to be continuing to post videos and to write about Sporting Kansas City throughout the season on my Substack, Drew FC. So please stay tuned if you're a Sporting Kansas City fan or an MLS fan, because I'm going to give my honest opinion analysis. This isn't going to be any fluff because I'm not interested in that. I'm not looking to keep my media credentials alive, to keep going to games. Don't care. This is more about giving an honest opinion, which is something that you don't often get in MLS. You've got people who are more interested in being comedians, who are more interested in being something else, and just giving you the scratch of the surface. So let's look into this a little bit more throughout the season. Now, Sporting will be playing another preseason match coming up this weekend, like I say, before they go off to California for the Coachella Invitational. Should you be worried as a Sporting fan? Well, from the different fan sites and the different Reddits and the different things that I see, yes, I think that there are a lot of fans who are worried about it. If you listen to some of the dedicated Sporting podcasts, they're not so worried because we do know that this is going to be a bit of a process. And that's the unfortunate thing, is that we're going to have to wait as this team continues to build. Like I say, don't expect the team that plays on February the 21st to be the team that you're going to see as maybe that transfer window closes. You might see some players leave. You might see several players come in. The transfer window goes into March in Major League Soccer for the winter transfer window, and the summer transfer window has now been aligned with the European transfer window. So we can also expect in the summer Sporting to continue to build the squad. Now, the unfortunate thing about that as a fan, yes, we know this is a rebuilding season, but we really would love to see the rebuilding happening right now. Yes, there have some players come in. Calvin Harris, which I'm pretty excited about him. MLS veteran, had a great season, his best season in MLS last season for Colorado Rapids. Supposed to have its rapid pace, pardon the pun, and hopefully we can see that this season for Sporting. He can play on the right side or the left side of the midfield or in an attacking three. So an exciting player there. But other than that, we've not really seen a lot of activity. Like I say, Inga has decided to go elsewhere. And, I've talked about previously that one of the reasons why Sporting Kansas City may be having trouble signing players is because Sporting Kansas City is an unknown MLS team. Now, maybe in the States, if you're stateside, if you are an avid MLS fan, then you know about Sporting Kansas City. You know that they are a club with a great history in Major League Soccer, one of the original teams. But if you're outside the US and outside Canada, then you probably don't know necessarily a lot about Sporting Kansas City. And cast your mind back to when the rebrand from the Kansas City Wizards to Sporting Kansas City was, there was the idea that if the club changes its name to be more that European or South American feel, then it's going to be able to attract more players, more interest. And I don't really think that's happened just because Kansas City isn't the most well-known city outside of the States. Even inside the States, it's not necessarily the most well-known city. Here in the UK, you see people every day wearing Inter Miami kits. I mean, you see kids everywhere. You go to a local pitch for a training session and you see kids wearing Inter Miami. You see LA Galaxy. You see New York Red Bulls, New York FC, obviously with the connection to Manchester City. But you don't see Sporting Kansas City. You don't see other teams like that. And, speaking of New York City FC, I've heard quite a few Sporting fans say, it would be great if David Lee, with his history with New York City FC, that it'd be great if he could draw players or sign players based on that. Now, the problem with that is David Lee had the Manchester City Football Group machine behind him. Scouts, hundreds of scouts and coaches all over the world, able to feed back and to help bring in players and funnel them into New York City. And that's great for them. Sporting doesn't have that. I've heard that there are only maybe 2-3 scouts that the club have right now, because Sporting had gotten into the situation where there's just such a lack of staff, and they're still hiring people. So they're still trying to find people for these places. So one of the reasons why the club is struggling to bring in these transfers, again, possibly because of a poor scouting network or a lack of scouts right now. So that hope that Lee could bring in players from elsewhere, from Manchester City, from any of these places, that's maybe a bit fanciful, because he's not with New York City FC anymore. The City Football Group like to send players, coaches from their different clubs. There's 13 in the City Football Group, so that's 13 teams that can all share ideas, share coaches, share scouts, share players. So Sporting, unfortunately, not going to be able to do that. But hopefully in a week or two, we'll see maybe Kansas City bringing in a few new players. But again, don't be surprised if any one of those 3 trialists, Mayer, Reed, or Bartlow, are on that team soon with a contract. And may not be the worst idea, but again, that defense needs help badly. 70 goals conceded last season, the worst in MLS, and that was their downfall. Guys, I hope you liked this. If you did, please hit like, subscribe, and comment below. Let me know what you think about Sporting Kansas City this season. Also, go over to the Substack and read up there about Sporting Kansas City. You can subscribe, you can upgrade to paid, which would be great to keep all of this independent writing going. Of course, you don't have to subscribe. You can just read as you like and wish. But thanks for watching. And like I say, let me know in the comments below what you think about the upcoming season for Sporting and if fans should be worried. Thanks, guys.